By the final day of testimony in the Energy Transfer versus Greenpeace trial, it's March 13th, and an early spring has melted the snow. Kelsey Warren is called as a witness. He's Energy Transfer's board chair and largest shareholder, and he was CEO when the Dakota Access Pipeline was being built. Energy Transfer has spent a whole lot of time trying to keep Kelsey Warren's testimony out of the courtroom. Their lawyers tried to claim that Kelsey didn't have any useful information about his own company's famously controversial pipeline. In interviews, Kelsey's made it clear that he has strong feelings about the Standing Rock movement. Here he is on CNBC, right after the original Greenpeace lawsuit was filed in 2017.
What happened to us was tragic. I mean, that lies were being told, tens of millions of dollars were being raised by Greenpeace and others based on these lies.
Kelsey's a pretty sensitive guy. In addition to his island in Honduras and his collection of exotic animals, he also owns a record label and writes his own tender songs on the guitar. Jackson Browne is his idol. Kelsey has a reputation for using the legal system to lash out when he feels his company is unfairly being attacked, which is exactly what he thought was happening with the Standing Rock movement. It couldn't have helped that his hero Jackson Browne publicly denounced Kelsey's company's pipeline. Jackson even gave a benefit concert in honor of the water protectors.
We've got to do something. Everybody's afraid of these environmental groups and the fear that it may look wrong if you fight back with these people. But what they did to us is wrong, and they're going to pay for it.
At the Morton County Courthouse, Kelsey's face appears on the flat screen TVs around the courtroom. It's a pre-recorded video deposition. He has a shock of white hair, and his eyebrows are furrowed, like he's concerned. The lawyer goes over how Donald Trump's executive order in 2017 told the Army Corps to approve the Dakota Access Pipeline's easement. And about midway through his testimony, Kelsey drops his first surprise. That executive order that allowed Energy Transfer to start drilling, Energy Transfer actually drafted it. Energy Transfer's lawyers turn back to the question at the heart of the case. Do you have any personal knowledge about anything Greenpeace did at all in relation to the protests? A lawyer asks from off camera. No, Kelsey replies. But then the lawyer asks about a different nonprofit called Earth Justice. It's the public interest law organization that represented the Standing Rock tribe in the early days of its legal fight to stop the pipeline. At the name Earth Justice, Kelsey perks up. And I can start to see why Energy Transfer might not have wanted him to testify. They're scumbags, Kelsey says of Earth Justice. To be clear, Earth Justice is not Greenpeace. It's not the organization this suit is against. Why do you say that, sir? The lawyer replies. By way of explanation, Kelsey begins to describe a meeting he had in December 2016 with the Standing Rock Sioux chairman, Dave Archambault. I went there with the intention of working out a financial transaction with the chairman, he says. Kelsey starts talking about how he tried to make a deal with the Standing Rock Sioux chairman to end the protests, as if the tribe, not Greenpeace, was the one leading the protests. Kelsey goes on. I said, Dave, I'm here to make a deal with you. Do you want cash? What do you want? I said, we own this land up there. Kelsey says he offered the chairman the ranch that the pipeline company bought, the one that held the sacred sites and the drill pad. We could build you a whole new school on your reservation. Let's make a deal, he says. He made it very clear, Kelsey says of the chairman, that he could not accept any offer from me that involved them backing down. Again, Kelsey is implying that it was the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, not Greenpeace, that had the power to end the uprising. And he has a surprising theory about why Chairman Dave Archambault refused. It was clear to me that he had struck a deal with the devil, Kelsey says. And the devil being Earth Justice, the lawyer replies. Yes. Kelsey Warren apparently believes that the thing that stopped Standing Rock's chairman Dave Archambault from accepting Energy Transfer's deal must have been another competing deal with Earth Justice. I read between the lines, and I believe that they made a deal, and Archambault couldn't make a deal with me, he says. I asked Dave Archambault about this. He told me he did meet to discuss safety with Kelsey Warren, but he said he was not there to negotiate ending the protests. Back in court, the lawyer asks, "Nothing was said about Greenpeace during that meeting, was it?" "Not that I recall," Kelsey replies. We're at the finale of the trial, and Energy Transfer's board chair has just given us a whole new theory of the case, which completely contradicts his company's lawsuit. After 3.5 weeks of testimony and months of my own reporting, this case is full of holes. To summarize, we've seen that Greenpeace donations and fundraising at Standing Rock only amounted to a small fraction of the millions in donations that poured into the movement from around the world. Only 6 employees from Greenpeace Inc. visited Standing Rock, out of well over 10,000 people who showed up. And no one from Greenpeace International or Greenpeace Fund ever went. The whole time this was all going on, the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe and other indigenous nations were very publicly fighting the pipeline in court. The pipeline company had no ability to drill under the river during the protests because they had no permission from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to do that. Meanwhile, Greenpeace's allegedly defamatory statements, including that police used violence against nonviolent demonstrators, that the pipeline passes through tribal land, and that Energy Transfer deliberately desecrated sacred sites, are assertions that the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe and many others stand by to this day. Now today, on the last day of testimony, Energy Transfer's own board chair has a whole nother story of the movement. But will this even matter to the jurors? This season of Drilled, we bring you SLAPP, the story of an indigenous nation fighting for its water, an environmental nonprofit facing extinction, and an energy giant using the courts to punish protesters. I'm Aline Brown. The Monday after Kelsey Warren's testimony, Energy Transfer's lawyer Trey Cox steps in front of the jury for his closing statement. Trey tells the jurors that Greenpeace employees are master manipulators and deceptive to the core. Volume on the courtroom drama has been turned way up. Think about the mafia, he suggests. I gotta see a guy about a thing. Did you get the package? Sleeps with the fishes. These are the type of words that people in conspiracies use as code words to communicate other things. He says that Greenpeace relies on similar code words to trick people, like campfire, nonviolent, art tent, solidarity. Now, solidarity and indigenous leadership, these are some of the most deceptive words that they use. And when they stand up here and they try to use those words, I want you to call them out as code words. Trey starts to get into the damages, what Energy Transfer wants Greenpeace to pay them. And he reveals that Energy Transfer isn't just looking for the over $266 million the company claims they spent on countering the protests. They want triple that total, including massive exemplary damages, extra money meant to make an example out of Greenpeace. He tells the jury that ruling in Energy Transfer's favor is about more than just this case. It needs to be done for Morton County. It needs to be done for Morton County's law enforcement. And more importantly, it needs to be done for the next community where Greenpeace exploits an opportunity to push its agenda at any cost. And I don't know whether that's going to be in Louisiana or Texas or Oklahoma or Ohio, but you have the responsibility of protecting those others. The Greenpeace organizations present their closing statements, a detailed outline of all the inconsistencies and holes in Energy Transfer's lawsuit. And Judge Guillen sends the jury to begin their deliberations. And now, all there is to do is wait. A decision could come in a few hours or even a few weeks. Even at this point, I was not really sure what was going to happen. But I figured the best way to get a sense of how this might go was to talk to some people who are from here. After all, this case was in the hands of Morton County community members. As I was driving into Mandan a while back, I had noticed a digital sign advertising community events. Testicle Festival at the Moose Lodge, it flashed in neon red. I knew what I had to do.
These are Rocky Mountain oysters. Mm-hmm. Do I need to tell Jim, what they're actually made out of?
Mm-hmm. Well, I already know, but tell me anyway.
Okay, well, they're mature bulls, hoofed Angus, whatever you want to call it, and they're big nuts.
He just made the shape like bigger than his head.
Well, not quite that big, but anyways, then they slice them.
All right,
in a little
sauce. That's a lot of information.
Mandan's Moose Lodge is packed. The space is half dive bar, half events hall, and tonight there's a line of people waiting to order bison burgers and Rocky Mountain oysters. A bunch of tables and chairs are set up for people to eat. Dale, who doesn't want to use his last name, is a retired rancher. Alongside oil and gas, cattle ranching is one of Morton County's biggest industries. And the Testicle Festival takes place every year during calving season.
I mean, it's not terrible. It tastes like a fried thing, you know?
I want to know what people here thought about the protests against the Dakota Access Pipeline. So I'm working my way around the room. I start chatting with Helena Reel and Betty Thompson. Both of them grew up on farms.
I got my first bite of a Rocky Mountain oyster.
Whoa. Lucky you, and you're from where?
I'm from the Twin Cities originally. I grew up in St. Paul, and now I'm based in Brooklyn.
I ask her about Mandan, North Dakota.
Mandan's good. Mandan's a small community that sticks up for its fellow man. I mean, that's what we do.
Right. What was it like when those protests were going on for this community?
We didn't like it.
No.
Plain and simple, we didn't like it.
That's Betty.
All the protesting, and then they closed the roads. You couldn't go anywhere. Then they come to Mandan, they're marching down Main Street with dead pigs. Really? Who does that?
I'm wondering what Betty and Helena think about Greenpeace's argument that people from here are too biased to be neutral jurors.
Part of the reason I want to talk to people in Mandan is because one of the things they're trying to argue is that the trial should not be held here because it would be impossible to find someone who's totally unbiased on the subject.
I have to agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree.
You agree?
Helena says there's another guy I should talk to. She introduces me to a rancher named Jim, who also doesn't want to use his last name. His family has a ranch not far from where the anti-pipeline camps were located. And he says he and his neighbors felt unsafe.
I was repeatedly threatened, chased up and down the highway. They'd follow me from our ranch 30 miles south all the way to town, follow me around town until I would stop to confront them, then they'd take off. I was spied on, threatened. In the middle of the night, they'd be in our yard, and I'd catch them.
Jim says he's convinced that what he experienced didn't come from people from the Standing Rock Sioux tribe.
When they say it was outsiders stirring things up, that was our view of it, because we never had issues with anybody that we knew locally. When you had issues, and when I got, you'd catch people in my yard, sneaking in there. It was always people from, well, where are you from? Oh, I come up from Nebraska, or it was never local people.
Right.
Dale is listening in. He shares who he thinks those outsiders were.
Greenpeace was behind it. They always take that anonymous thing,
Right.
across the world. Right, Jim? They take that anonymous, they always stand in the backgrounds and they agitate, is what they do.
What makes you think that? What did you hear about them?
Well, because their name came up many times during the protest. Greenpeace did. It came up.
Right.
Oh, yeah. That's why I believe they were behind it. But they were behind a lot of protests.
I asked Dale and his friend what they think of the damage claims.
They're trying to get Greenpeace to pay for everything, and
They should.
To the point to where they're broke.
They had no business here.
No.
yeah.
People I'm talking to are convinced that outsiders drove these protests. But it's also clear that what happened continues to impact relationships among people who are from here. For example, Dale says he doesn't go to Standing Rock's Prairie Nights Casino anymore. That tension is still there, 8 years later. especially between white and Native people, according to Dale.
It's just right under the surface right now, you know.
Our conversation meanders, and we start talking about what Morton County is like. I asked Dale about the oil boom that began in the mid-2000s.
Yeah, when the boom happened, oh yeah.
What was it like?
Oh man, it was crazy. I mean, they came from all over. I mean, I'd never seen hookers walking on the street before. Yes, absolutely. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. It gives me goosebumps just talking about it right now. The crime rate just went straight up.
Here in Mandan.
Yes. I mean, it brought in the riffraff is what it did. All the towns were affected. Meth labs were popping up all over the place. Yes, yeah. Oh yeah, the drugs were just crazy. Yeah.
Dale says law enforcement eventually got a handle on it, and things calmed down. I asked if there was good things that came out of the boom.
Oh yeah, the money. You know, the money. It's always about the money, you know. Yeah. Oh yeah. Now all the cities get money, like Morton counties. I think they were impacted by the oil, so they get money out of that.
Dale's story about the boom makes me think. During the Standing Rock movement, a camp of 10,000 people popped up suddenly in the middle of the prairie. It was a different kind of boom town. And it kind of makes sense that that would result in some chaos for the existing community. And at the end of this boom, the people of Morton County didn't get rewarded with the kind of money that came with the oil boom. It's making more and more sense to me why people from here feel so negatively toward the Standing Rock movement. But I am fully aware that the Testicle Festival folks aren't the only ones with a perspective on both the oil boom and protests. So I meet up with another local outside the courthouse. Candy Mossett-White works for the Indigenous Environmental Network. Her boss is that guy Tom Goldtooth, who was talking to Greenpeace about the settlement. She spent months at the anti-pipeline camps, and she sat in on some of the trial. I'm just curious how long you've lived here and what this place is like.
So, first of all, I was born and raised in North Dakota.
Candy is a member of the Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara tribe. Specifically, she's Mandan, part of the indigenous nation that this town was named after. Now she lives in Bismarck, but she grew up on the Fort Berthold Reservation, northwest of here.
That's in the heart of the Bakken where the oil is coming from that flows through the pipeline.
She has another view of what an oil boom can do.
I myself am a cancer survivor. For some reason, I survived a stage 4 sarcoma tumor when I was like 20. And a lot of my people, my relatives, our people back home didn't win that battle. And there's so many cancers. Everybody's sick. Every single kind of cancer that you can imagine.
Candy blames a lot of this on the oil and gas industry. Bismarck is home for Candy, but she says it's not always an easy place.
There's racism here. There's a mentality that, oh, those natives, there's those drunks, and there's no, I shouldn't say there's no, but there's a lack of understanding of boarding schools and what had happened and how we had a whole lost generation of elders who were hurting very, very, very bad.
Candy's referencing how the U.S. government used to take Indigenous children from their families and send them to faraway schools to strip them of their culture. Overall, this community was fertile ground for the pipeline company's divisive strategies.
What this industry sought to do was divide and conquer even us as tribes, to pit us against each other as nations, and to pit definitely white people against Native people, because when they do that, they control the narrative. When they control the narrative, they win.
Despite all that, Candy is holding on to hope that maybe the jury saw what she saw, that the evidence didn't support Energy Transfer's claims.
I'm trying not to be pessimistic about things. I'm really trying really hard. I want to be there for one of those times in history where the correct, accurate, and right decision was made, and there was a win for humanity.
On Wednesday, March 19th, just 2 days after closing statements, there's a rumor that the jury might be about to deliver a verdict. The Greenpeace people say it can hang out at their workspace, a storefront a couple blocks from the courthouse, so that I'll know right when the verdict comes in. They send me into an empty, echoing room that they're not using so that I can't listen in on their legal strategy. From my solo folding table and chair, I can see into the other part of the office through a window. Occasionally, someone comes and visits me.
Sorry, every time I see someone like walking quickly, I'm like, what's going on?
Team won't move. When they move, we gotta move.
Right, exactly.
Candy pops in. She starts theorizing that maybe the jurors are in there fighting with each other. Maybe there's one person who's holding out. Hung jury, she says, putting it out there. Both of our heads flip to our right. Through the window, there's a rush of people moving in the other room. Candy dashes out. It's time.
The courthouse is right there, I think.
Inside the courtroom, there's a swish of clothing as everyone rises for Judge Guillen. The court has received word that the jury has reached a verdict, he says. The jurors file in. One woman has a spark of excitement in her eyes. Another looks kind of miserable. The court clerk stands up to read their decision. Did defendants trespass on Energy Transfer's land? Greenpeace Fund? No. Greenpeace International? No. Greenpeace Inc.? Yes. How much do you award to Energy Transfer in compensatory damages for trespass to land? Over the next 10 or so minutes, there's a blur of numbers, and all of them have million at the end. Each is a blow to Greenpeace. Someone in the room is quietly crying. When it's over, not even the lawyers have done the math to determine the exact total. But what's clear is that Greenpeace has lost. Badly. Outside the courtroom, Energy Transfer's lawyer, Trey Cox, poses with a huddle of lawyers from his firm, Gibson, Dunn & Crutcher. He has an American flag pinned to the lapel of his suit. His colleagues look satisfied in their sunglasses as Trey delivers his victory speech.
Today, the jury has delivered a resounding verdict declaring Greenpeace's actions wrongful, unlawful, and unacceptable by societal standards. Greenpeace maliciously misrepresented events within this community in an unrelenting attempt to stop, by any means possible, the construction of a pipeline that had already obtained all of the necessary legal approvals. These are the facts, not the fake news of the Greenpeace propaganda machine. This is a resounding win for the people of Bismarck, the people of Mandan, and Morton County, as well as law enforcement officers who across this state diligently worked and risked their lives to maintain order in increasing chaos. This verdict serves as a powerful affirmation of the First Amendment. Peaceful protest is an inherent American right. However, violent and destructive protest is unlawful and unacceptable. This verdict clearly conveys that.
The jury found Greenpeace Inc. was liable for all of Energy Transfer's on-the-ground damage claims. Greenpeace Inc. and Greenpeace International were guilty of conspiracy. And they said all three Greenpeace organizations committed tortious interference as well as defamation when they made their statements on police violence, tribal territory, and desecration of sacred sites. But we still don't know the dollar total of the damages, and another reporter asks,
Thank you.
Mr. Cox, do you have a total number?
It's close to $700 million.
I kind of can't believe my ears.
Wait, did he say, I recorded it. Did he say
He said close to 700 million.
700 million? Okay. All right.
Yeah. Over twice the amount of the actual lawsuit.
That's Candy Mossett-White again.
Can you share your reaction to all of this?
It's absolutely bullshit, 100%. None of these people that are leaving are from here, for one thing. They're all going back to Texas, Louisiana. I'm from here. Nobody asked us natives what we wanted to do. This is absolutely bullshit. This verdict was absolutely biased, 100%. And yes, I'm emotional because my kids go to school here, because I'm from here, and I have to deal with the after effects. I know some of those people. I've seen them around Bismarck, Mandan before. That is our historic lands that were destroyed. And this company got money for defamation for Greenpeace or for other people allegedly saying that they destroyed sacred sites. They did. I was there. I just don't understand how they can get away with it other than North Dakota is a huge fossil fuel state. It's just really, really upsetting to me that these people get to leave and go back to their respective states and not have to deal with everything we have to continue to deal with as a result of these kinds of industries like Energy Transfer He stood here in front of the press and said they had all the permits necessary, and they didn't. They didn't have the easement to go under Lake Oahe. That had nothing to do with Greenpeace. Nothing. And now they're getting thrown under the bus for something they didn't even do. And they're treating us Native people like we're not competent enough to organize and strategize something to protect our air, land, and water. It's sick.
Greenpeace takes its turn to speak to the press. They look like they're at a funeral. Deepa Padmanabha, Greenpeace's senior legal advisor, addresses the crowd.
We should all be concerned about the attacks on our First Amendment and lawsuits like this that really threaten our rights to peaceful protest and free speech. The work of Greenpeace is never going to stop. That's the really important message today. And we're just walking out, and we're going to get together and figure out what our next steps are.
No one lingers long. We all get into our cars and drive away. After the trial wrapped up, I headed back home to New York. And in the weeks after, I kept thinking back to when I first started covering the Standing Rock movement, back in 2016, just as Donald Trump was elected to his first term. Standing Rock provided the opening scenes for a new era of repression against protest. In the years that followed, we saw anti-protest laws spread across the U.S. and around the world, especially targeting environmental movements. The laws were developed and spread by industry, initially in response to Standing Rock. At the same time, after uprisings like the George Floyd movement popped off, a kind of storytelling took hold that started to erase what we'd been taught in school, that protests are a noble tool of democracy that have forced some of the most important changes in U.S. history. A new story replaced that one, and it said that protest is bad, and maybe change is bad too. Now, the Energy Transfer versus Greenpeace verdict is landing at the beginning of a shitty sequel. In Trump's second term, the same strategies used against the Standing Rock movement are being put into practice at a much bigger scale. We're seeing the National Guard brought in against anti-deportation protesters, this time called by the president himself. The head of the Department of Homeland Security has said the IRS is looking into protest funding, and Republican members of Congress have launched an investigation. I'd wager that if Standing Rock had happened today, the FBI, rather than Tiger Swan, would have been investigating the movement's funding. With Trump back in office, we've also entered a whole new era of bad deal-making. Media outlets, universities, and law firms are being presented with deals from the Trump administration that demand they either reel back challenges to the president and abandon the most vulnerable people among them, like immigrants or trans people or Palestinians, or face the possibility that their institution will be drained of resources and destroyed. This round, it's not a law firm or a CEO working for a private company that's making the offers. It's government attorneys working for the president. Although to be clear, many of them come from the private sector. Former lawyers for both Gibson Dunn and Energy Transfer have been appointed to high-level positions in the Trump administration. Here's Deepa, Greenpeace Inc.'s senior legal advisor.
You know, the verdicts came at a time when we have just been seeing institutions crumbling, where rather than fighting head on, people, individuals, law firms, universities, they're all crumbling.
Greenpeace has become one of the institutions that is fighting back and is finding out how severe the blowback can be. By the end of July, Greenpeace had offered U.S. staff voluntary buyouts. The organizations lost 20% of their employees.
Was it worth it to not accept the deal, given how huge the verdict is?
Listen, there was no choice, right? Is our existence, our ultimate mission, just the existence of an entity, or is there something in our mission that's bigger than that?
I asked the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe's current chair, Janet Alkire, what she thought of the verdict. Will this verdict impact Standing Rock, and if so, how?
I'm thinking definitely it will impact because it's there for the record, right? What I'm hopeful about is that Greenpeace doesn't end there, that they're going to move this beyond and fight it.
The Standing Rock Sioux Tribe knows way more than any environmental organization about standing up to bad deals. It's woven into their entire history. That lawsuit they filed against the Army Corps was dismissed a few weeks after the Greenpeace verdict, and they've already filed an appeal. To Janet, regardless of the odds, the fight for the Oceti-Sakowin people's water is too important to give up.
Even if we do not win in court, what history will say about us is more important. What our children will say is more important. Yeah. That we always stood up for them, because if we just give up, then of course they win. So I'm hoping down the road that I can be at peace knowing that I tried. I think I couldn't live with myself if I didn't try.
The Greenpeace organizations are getting ready to appeal the verdict in the North Dakota Supreme Court. And I've heard mixed predictions from legal experts I've talked to. Meanwhile, Greenpeace International is leaning on the European Union's anti-SLAPP law to strike back at Energy Transfer in a court in the Netherlands. They're hoping to recover the money they spent dealing with the lawsuit, but the U.S. has no federal anti-SLAPP law. Neither Energy Transfer nor Gibson, Dunn & Crutcher answered a detailed list of questions. However, they repeatedly shared a statement. We are very pleased that Greenpeace has been held accountable for its actions against Energy Transfer. And in the months since the trial, lawyer Trey Cox has said that other companies are already expressing interest in repeating what Energy Transfer did to Greenpeace. He told the Daily Caller, "I'm getting calls from the oil and gas industry. I'm getting calls from any number of other industries that have been similarly affected." Still, where it comes to the fight for the Oceti-Sakowin's water, there's not a clear winner. While the company Kelsey Warren co-founded may have gotten its day of reckoning in court, and they may have even imprinted a new story of Standing Rock in the minds of many Americans, there's some things that can't be erased. Standing Rock activated a whole generation of Indigenous organizers who went home and continue to fight to protect their own communities. I talked to Cody, who was originally named in the lawsuit, one last time.
Was it worth it?
Yeah, it was. It was. Because we needed it. Not just as Indigenous people, but just people as a whole. My grandfather spoke of it best, when he said everything was for the people. Remember that. I guess we endured a lot for the people. We did a lot for the people, not just Indigenous people, but everybody, So it was worth it.
Drilled is an original Critical Frequency production. This season was reported and written by me, Aline Brown. Our senior editor is Audrey Quinn. Additional editing by Tristan Ottone at Grist. Our producer and sound designer is Ray Pang. Mixing and mastering by Martin Zaltz Ostwick and Peter Duff. Fact-checking by Sarah Sneath. Our First Amendment attorney is James Wheaton of the First Amendment Project. We're also a member of Reporters Shield. Our impact producer is Lindsay Crowder. Marketing by Maggie Taylor. Original artwork for this season was created by Victor Pasquale of Digital Navajo. Our theme music is by Dear Lady. The show was created and executive produced by Amy Westervelt. The Center for Media and Democracy supported document review for this season. You can find a companion feature story to this season at grist.org. For related stories and to support our work, check out drill.media. To follow my work, check out my newsletter Ecofiles at alinebrown.ghost.io.
Know what you want, what you really want. Know what you want, what you really want. Know what you want, what you really want. Know what you want, what you really want.